Welcome to the BI Portfolio Exercise Power Pivot. Power Pivot is an Excel add-in that is actually part of Microsoft's Power BI suite. And this add-in is available in Office 365. You may notice that I've actually have the Power Pivot ribbon open right now, and we'll be using that in this particular exercise. But let me just explain a little bit first about what Power Pivot is. So Power Pivot, and the main feature of Power Pivot is that it allows you to develop a data model. Essentially, the data model allows us to bring together data from different sources into Excel. So this could be an Excel worksheet, it could be a web query, it could be an OData feed directly from an ERP system. It could be a connection to an Access database. So what this tool allows us to do is to bring those multiple sources together into one model. We can then make connections and establish connections between the different data sources and data tables. We can define relationships as well as transform data within the data model. And if you look at the left-hand icon on the Power Pivot ribbon, you'll notice there is a data model in this icon, and that's something that we're going to be exploring. In this particular exercise, we're going to be using 6 different Excel worksheets, all brought together in one workbook, and that's where this exercise is going to start. And so if you actually take a look at the worksheets that I have, you'll notice I have 6 worksheets. The first worksheet is called Sales Transactions, which is our fact table. So this is the table that contains the transactions of sales in the exercise that we'll be using. The other tables in Excel worksheets, in this case, sales organization, product category, month, material, and customer, are all dimensional tables. These are tables we'll connect to sales transactions that will provide us with the fields that we can use to group, sort, and understand our data. In this particular exercise, I'll be dividing the exercise into a couple different pieces. The first piece is about creating the data model and transforming the data, and then we'll do one of the pivot tables or 2 of the pivot tables together. So the first step that needs to be done in order to create a data model within Power Pivot is to define each one of our worksheets and our data tables as tables themselves. So I'm going to select the entire data set, and then we're going to go into the data ribbon. Oh, sorry, wrong place, not the data ribbon. I keep forgetting it's in the insert ribbon under insert, and we're going to insert a table. So we insert a table. We can see in the first table under sales transactions, it selects my entire data table from cell A1 to L48,385, and I'm going to specify that my table has headers. What that means is the text that's found in row 1 will become the field names in my data model. So I'm going to hit OK here. I'm going to create a table. Now, in this case, this already had an external connection, so I'm prompted here to overlap or remove my external data ranges, and I'm going to convert to a table and remove my external connections at this point. Okay, so there's my data table. The table is called Table 1, so I'm going to rename this Sales Transactions, the same name as my worksheet. Okay, hit Enter. All right, and there is my first worksheet defined as a data table. I'm going to pause this video now and invite you to name all of the worksheets that you would have brought into this workbook as data tables within Excel. So the next step after you've defined all of the worksheets and the data contained in those as data tables is to add this data to a data model. Now, if you're importing data from a database or through a query or a web query, you can add the data to the model as part of the importing steps. But in this case, because we didn't import and we have the data already in Excel, we're going to add these data tables to the data model by first going to the Power Pivot menu and then on the ribbon, selecting the icon that says to add the data to the model. So we're going to hit this icon. So what will happen is the Power Pivot tool opens up and we can see, in this case, it looks as though we're just looking at a worksheet, but what is actually happening in this case is that the data from the Excel worksheet is being brought into the data model. So we actually are now in Power Pivot for Excel. If you look across the top, it's Power Pivot for Excel, and we have a whole new set of ribbons here. We're going to be coming back to this in a minute, but just let's explore just briefly. We have what looks like a worksheet view. So this is not dissimilar from Excel. And at the bottom, we can see we actually have a little bit of data about the records. We can see that we're currently highlighted the first of 48,384 records. We'll come back to this in a minute, but we're just going to close this model for a second. And now we're going to bring in the second table into the model. So we'll select sales organization, add data to model. Okay, and now when we add the second table to the model, what we'll notice is we now have two tabs across the bottom that aren't dissimilar from navigating worksheets, but now these two data tables are sitting within our data model. So I'm going to pause the video here while I'm going to invite you all to continue adding all of the 6 data tables to the model. And then when we come back, we're going to make connections or relationships between those different data tables. So to verify that you have added all of the worksheets to the data model, you want to open up or stay within the Power Pivot for Excel application. And if you look at the bottom left-hand corner, you'll notice that there is a tab for each data table that was brought into this model. And I can verify that I have all 6 tables that were part of the exercise. So our next step now is to create a relationship between those tables. Now, we're going to try here in a minute going through a diagram view, which is not dissimilar from the way that you would build connections between tables in the Microsoft database tool Access. So to build those connections, we're going to leave the data view, which is the view that looks like regular Excel worksheets and tables. And we're going to select diagram view in the top. So when we select diagram view, what happens is we get a list of all of our tables, and I'm just going to organize them so that I can actually see all the fields and all the table names. Now, I also want to draw your attention when I hover over a particular table, you may notice there is a little icon set here called creating a hierarchy. So in the second video, when we transform data, part of the transformation will be creating a hierarchy. Now, I'm just going to organize all my tables here so I can see them all. There is a slider over here too, so I want to make sure customer gets brought in. Okay, now they're all on one screen. Okay, so what I want to connect is I know I want to connect first my product to material. So I'm going to select product. Now I'm going to, by pressing my left mouse button, I'm going to drag product over top of material and drop it. At that point, a relationship should be created between those tables. And what you can see is I have one material can have many sales transactions. And so that's the numeric representation of the relationship. And you may remember that back from our access exercise back from week, I think 2 or 3, in which we were taking a look at these relationships, I think even with the same data tables. All right, let's look at the next one. I'm going to take customer, and I want to link my customer code from my sales transactions to customers in my customer table. Okay, the relationship was built there. That looks great. Now let's do sales organization to sales organization here. So we're going to use sales organization from customer to sales organization in my sales orgs table. Let's look at product category. Excuse me, product category will link to my material table through those two fields, product category and product category. And again, I've got one product category can have many materials. And last but not least, our month from our sales transaction, we're going to join to the month in our months table. All right. So now we have all of our relationships established between our 6 tables. Now at this point, when we start using the Power Pivot tool, you'll notice that we do not have to perform lookups, for example, in order to pull data from different tables into our pivot table. So at this point, what we're going to do is pause this video, or actually stop this video, which is our data sourcing and importation and building of the data model. Our next video is going to be how to perform data transformations within Power Pivot.